Okay, so good morning, everyone. So for today's meeting, yeah, we'll continue on our discussion, but unfortunately, we'll be doing our online classes because of the heavy rains. Well, first is that yeah, the school decided to have online classes for today. Let me just um, clear this to everyone. At around 4 to 5 o'clock in the morning, the weather in our area was okay. Okay, so it was fine. It was simply a rainy day, and then there was no announcement of the local government as to suspension of classes. It was only localized, and Tandang Sora was not included. And also the weather advisor in our area says that it would only be light to moderate. But by around, I think around 6:20 in the morning, there was really heavy rains, and we assessed the area in our school, and it seems that it was really heavy rains. So immediately at around 6:40 or 6:45, we immediately announced that classes will be online for today. The school tried its best, to assess, but remember, that the school will always be dependent on number one, the weather advisory. Okay, yung weather advisory, and you know this one, the weather advisory coming from Pag-asa and the local city government, and even the announcement of the city government as well. We tried our best to announce it as early as we can. No, I think the other schools are just announcing right now. Okay, the other schools are announcing just now, and it was very late. No, very late. Anyways, we still have classes, but it's online. Sometimes, it's a bit sad that some would not want to have classes. Wala na tayong klase nung Thursday pa. Remember, Thursday, Friday, uh, um, and today is Monday, no? And sayang, no? Um, we should be, this situation should be like, normal to us, because in the Philippines, we are a tropical country. Okay? So rains is part of our everyday living. And that's why we have this modality, the learning management system, and through this online classes, so that classes will continue. Okay? Um, anyway, yun lang naman, so as to clarify and to be able to explain your parents, no? We tried our best to assess the situation, despite no uh, despite the non-announcement of our local government and the weather condition. It was not even orange alert. It was light to moderate thunderstorms, as posted by the Quezon City local government. So anyway, despite that, we still have our classes naman. Okay? Sige. Let's start. So our discussion for today would primarily be about the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. Although I was able to have discussed this na pahapyaw lang, I thought that explaining the difference would be able to clarify your understanding of the difference between the two. Normally, the types of research that we have uh, uh, are the qualitative and the quantitative research. But there's another research called the mixed method. In a mixed method, you combine both the qualitative and the quantitative research. So for your practical research one, it's qualitative. I think we talked about this one. And the quantitative research would be for your practical research too. So as a head start discussion of your research class, we will be doing the qualitative. So there are different types of research to consider based on the following aspects. You do research because of purpose. Number two, because of process. And the third one, because of outcome. So again, we talk about research is based on different aspects: a purpose, the process, and the outcome. And then there are actually different types of research coming under the category of purpose. Okay, so when we talk about the purpose of a research, it can be identified to descriptive research, analytical research, exploratory research, and the predictive research. So let's talk briefly about the purpose of these different types of research. Now, when we talk about descriptive research, medyo marami yan, but we'll just try to highlight the important ones. The fact-finding inquiries of different kinds, such as the what, the why, the when, the who, how, and all. Qualitative research could be under the descriptive research. Okay, as the characteristic of descriptive would be a phenomena at present, which is very much into qualitative research. The researcher has no control over the variable, only have to report what is happening or what has happened. Remember the activity I've asked you to do to be able to observe using your five senses. Uh, that's how you actually do your qualitative research, no? Anything that you hear, anything that you touch or you sense, you smell, okay, you just write it down, you observe, okay, you don't add anything to it, and that's the head start of doing your actual qualitative research. Now, for description researchers, uh, there's another part of the descriptive research, which is quantitative. They can also use frequency, average, and the other statistical calculation. Kasi klase, descriptive research, meron ring descriptive research in the quantitative. Now, the methods used by these researchers involves a survey method, which would include the comparative and correlational method. You get to see here the word comparative and correlational method. These are examples of quantitative researches, which you're going to be able to understand later on. Now, the periodic table categorizes the element is an example of the descriptive research. Yung sa chemistry, remember the periodic table categories? That would be a very good example of a descriptive research. Next is an analytical research, okay? Mainly carrying out analysis on a phenomena which involves secondary data. Remember, I told you before, when you do research, there is the primary data and the secondary data. The primary data, you get it from thesis, dissertation, journal articles. Now, the secondary data, you get that from the other sources based on interviews, getting it from news articles, getting it from books. Now, the aim of this research is to understand the phenomena by discovering and measuring the causal relationships among them. So here, the researcher used facts or informations readily available. So, andyan na yun, to them in order to analyze or to make a critical evaluation of the context. Now, it worked within the constraint variables. So, noticeable class is the word variables. Variables normally are for quantitative research. Okay? In quantitative research, ang tatanungin palagi sa inyo doon, what are your variables? Okay? It could either be your dependent or independent variables. While in a qualitative research, hindi tinatanong ang variables, ang tinatanong diyan categories. So it also tries to explain the existing state of affairs from the available data. So an example of this one is, how can the absentee rate among employees be reduced? It's an example of an analytical research. And then we have the exploratory research. It's conducted about a research problem where there are a few or no earlier studies to refer to. Yung exploratory research, normally yan, you have control and control group, you have the experimental group, okay? Meaning you would base your data on, or you will test your experiment based on, let's say, based on two groups. One is you apply the actual experiment, and the other one is that you're not going to do anything. And then later on, you'll be able to compare, okay, yung binigyan mo ng experiment, yung hindi mo binigyan ng experiment, okay, what's the result yung sa binigyan mo, sa hindi mo binigyan, and you compare them. Now, the focus is on gaining insights and familiarity for the later investigation or undertaken when problems are in a preliminary stage of investigation. So here, gathers preliminary information that will help to define a problem and suggest a hypothesis. Again, when you hear the word hypothesis, it's not qualitative, but it's quantitative research. The hypothesis is that you need to be able to prove it later on. Okay. Now it's commonly used an unstructured interview, and it involves the generation of new ideas and assumptions, development of tentative theories, and others. So that's the explanatory research. And then we also have the so-called predictive research. It studies, determine the frequency with which something occurs or it's associated with something else. In diagnostic research, the researcher must be able to define clearly what he wants to measure and must find adequate method for measuring along with clear-cut definition of population he wants to study. Now, in this research, it would actually use statistical tools. So again, when you use statistical tools, it's quantitative. The major areas in which predictive diagnostic research design would include, it could be in business, it could be in marketing, in clinical setting, government agency, and many others. Okay? And going back to the different types of research, this time coming under the category or the process. So the processes would be qualitative research and the quantitative research. I forgot to indicate here the mixed method research, which be a combination of the two. So pag mahusay na kayo sa isang category, okay, then probably later on you'll be able to do both, no, mixed method, pero isa-isa muna. Okay, so when we talk about qualitative research again, qualitative phenomena that involves the quality or the kind. Now, again, in this research, you have to find out how people feel. Okay? So you have to observe. Ano ba ang, for example, you went to McDonald's or in a restaurant, okay? Ano ba yung nakikita, ano ba yung naramdaman ninyo? Okay? When you see the people inside McDonald's, are they happy? Are they sad? Are they disappointed? No, maybe based on the facial expressions that you get to see them, no? Or even your very own feeling is that, let's say the food that you have eaten, it's a bit cold already, okay? Or what people often think are coming under this research. Now, it is important also in behavioral sciences like psychology, no? It aims to discover the underlying motives of human behavior through detailed description. Okay, for example, the behavior of, let's say, young people who tends to be what's this term? Very meticulous in terms of the way young people look today, okay? Or body image, no? Why are some young people today so meticulous, no, about the way they look, and how they present themselves to other people? Now, the data is in the form of words, pictures, or objects and all. And then in a quantitative research, it's based on the measurement of quantity or amount. So nakikita mo niya na quantity or amount, that would really refer to certain measurements, no? It can only be expressed in terms of quantity. So here, the researcher will use instruments such as the questionnaires are equipped to collect data and all aspects of the study carefully designated before data is collected in the form of numbers, statistics, and this data is more efficient and able to test. So you will never get wrong with your actual results because it's based on statistics, which again, it's more efficient and you may be able to test it. And the different types of research naman coming under the category of outcomes. So the outcomes of research could either be an applied or action research, or fundamental or basic or pure research. So, yung gagawin yung research, siya magpo-fall dyan. It would fall on the basic, okay, the fundamental or basic or pure research, yung gagawin na ninyong research later on. Let's talk about other types of researchers, okay, are also present, such as the one-time research or the longitudinal research. So meron rin field setting research, laboratory research. When you watch, let's say, the Good Doctor in Netflix or the other platforms online, you'll be able to see there a lot of laboratory researches that they have actually presented in the different episodes. So you have the clinical research, a historical research, the conceptual research, and the empirical research. Okay, so in an empirical research, it is completely based on experiences or observation. So empirical research, yan yung gagawin natin. So keep in mind the difference between a qualitative and a quantitative research. In a quantitative research, again, you deal with words, images, and it's subjective. In a quantitative research, generally deals with numbers, logic, and it is objective. So hopefully that will be clear. Okay. And the types of data, again, in research, you have qualitative, for example, it was great. Okay, it was great. The weather is cold today. Let's say when I ask you to describe, let's say, the cell phone, how will you be able to describe the cell phone qualitatively? Let me just ask a few from the class. Who's this one? Trinidad. What's your first name, Trinidad?
Nicholas, sir.
Nicholas. Let's say, describe the cell phone using qualitative terms.
Qualitative.
How will you describe the cell phone using qualitative terms? What sense will you be using to describe the cell phone?
As of the moment, sir, I can only use my sense of sight.
Okay, so describe it using your sense of sight.
The phone has four total cameras with one flashlight seen from this side and has a clear back case that we can see from here.
Okay, very good. So you actually describe it based on what you see. No, that's very good. So that's how you do it qualitatively. Okay, but let's say, where is who's this one? Drio. Try to describe this one using quantitative terms. How will you be able to describe it using quantitative terms?
Um, hmm.
Kanina, the other classmate said, describe it qualitatively, no?
Mhm.
Using his sense of sight. In quantitative, you can actually describe this one using what? Measurements.
Measurements like, for example, I
Sige,
guess,
describe it.
hmm, the camera has a 32 megapixel, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
tama yun. Because you made use of numbers, no? Nag-ano ka ng the pixels of the phone. Very good. So I think you're getting it. Uh, yeah, that's very easy. So quantitative, it could be discrete, and it could be continuous. So ito, qualitative data. This is quantitative data. So here, very obvious naman. You're describing using words, and the other one using numbers, percentage. Okay. The value of money, and many more. Okay, so the classification of research design, so this is actually from Pollitt and Hungler in 1999. So you see here the quantitative design and the qualitative design. In a qualitative design, actually kulang pa to na isa. The most commonly used qualitative design would be a case study, a phenomenology, ethnography, and the grounded theory. Okay, so I think he missed the case study, which would be the common. Okay, they are the common qualitative design. And then for quantitative design, design can be experimental and non-experimental. Okay, so in an experimental, you have the following experimental design. You have the true experimental, the quasi-experimental, and the pre-experimental. So when you say true experimental, you conduct a pre-test and a post-test. Pre-test and post-test to your control design. So ibig sabihin, yung itetest mo na, let's say, na grupo, okay, bago mo itest yung, let's say, a theory or something, magpe-pretest ka muna. Okay, bago mo i-apply yung actual experiment mo. And a post-test, ano nangyari? So, you're going to test it after. So, post-test only control group design. Okay? Because you have the quasi-experimental, non-equivalent control group design, time series design, and you have the pre-experimental, one-shot case study, and one group or pre-test, post-test design. So in the non-experimental, it's normally descriptive. You would have the survey, correlational, the ex post facto studies, comparative, evaluative, and methodological. So very soon, you will be able to understand this different quantitative design. But as of the moment, we need to focus muna on the qualitative design. Okay? So difference between the two. So in quantitative, there's a hypothesis. In qualitative, there's none. Okay? As easy as that. Okay? So qualitative data, you deal with descriptions. Data can be observed but not measured. So you talk about the color, the text, the smell, the taste, the appearance, the beauty. So qualitative, you're looking for the quality. So in a quantitative data, you are able to deal with numbers and data which can be measured. So the length, height, area, volume, weight, time, speed, temperature, humidity, sound level, cost, age, and others. So quantitative, you're looking for the quantity. Okay. So the purpose of quantitative, to explain, predict, to test, to confirm, and validate a theory. For qualitative, you have to describe, explain, explore, interpret, and build a theory. So kanina, very clear naman, you validate a theory. For qualitative, you built the theory. So in the processes, quantitative, you're focused. There are variables, dependent and independent variables. There are guidelines that you need to follow. It's static design, context-free, objective. While in a qualitative research, it's holistic. The variables are unknown, but you have categories. Flexible guidelines. There are emergent design, and it is subjective. And then there are forms of reasoning. For quantitative, it's deductive analysis. From general to specific. Okay? And inductive analysis, specific to general. And that's why when I ask you, for example, for topics, from general, di ba yung una, medyo general, but I was telling you later on to be more specific of the study that you will be doing for qualitative research. And the findings in a quantitative research, the numerical data and statistics in the formal and scientific way. For qualitative, we need narrative description, the words and the quotes, the personal voice or the literary style. Okay. So in quantitative, looks at the patterns in the numeric data, while for qualitative, gathers information that is not numerically formed. So quantitative gathers data in numerical form, which can be put into categories or measured in units of measurement. While for qualitative data, it's typically descriptive. So the type of data in quantitative research can be used to construct graphs and tables. So when you do qualitative research, dapat walang graphs and tables doon. That's only for quantitative. So when you think of qualitative data, think of the word, again, quality, okay? Taking a deep quality look at a particular phenomena. Kaya nga, let's say, maybe one of you would come up with a qualitative research about, let's say, the lived experiences of either parents or students during the rainy season. Okay? Tingnan natin, no? Ano ba yung mga experiences nila? The lived experiences of parents and students, let's say, during the rainy season in school. No? How do, let's say, students or parents, or what is the lived experience of students or parents and during the rainy season? No? Maybe students would want no classes. Parents would want, no classes as well. Okay? So maganda yun. That's a very good study. But we'll be able to find out, for example, the actual experience of the people during, rainy seasons. Okay. Sino pa? Wait. Okay, so quantitative research examples, application forms, close-ended questionnaires, you have IQ tests, you have measurements, okay? And that's why when you do quantitative research, you should be able to look for the right statistical tool. Lalo na statistical tool and even the research questionnaires, no? There are research questionnaires very specific for quantitative research. So, sir, pwede ba magamit namin yung mga research questionnaires nila? Pwede naman, but if you will ask permission. Okay, you can ask permission, you can email the author, or you can use it, but make sure to put it in your references and to ask permission. If you're going to use the research instruments na readily available. Minsan kasi, you really have to ask permission whether you can use it in your research or not. For qualitative research examples, the diary accounts, no? Kasi descriptive yon, the document review, open-ended questionnaires, unstructured interviews, and unstructured observations. Okay, I think we talked about this, the purpose. Okay, for qualitative, normally the groups are smaller and not randomly selected. So normally in qualitative research, you are doing purposive sampling. For quantitative, larger and randomly selected. Normally, there is a formula for that. I think the basic one is that you need to have at least 100 participants. Kaya maraming participants in quantitative. So the variables, in quantitative, there are specific variables that need to be studied, dependent or independent variables. For qualitative study, it's not variables, but merely categories. Okay, so alam na natin ito, words, numbers. Okay. So in terms of the data collected, in qualitative research, it's normally open-ended responses. So you let the participants answer the questions that you will be answered, the questions that they need to answer. Interviews, so you let them speak. Participants' observations, field notes, yung ma-observe mo, and even your own, and even reflections. For quantitative data, based on precise measurements using, again, structured or validated data collection instruments. And the role of a researcher in qualitative, researcher and their biases may be known to participants in the study, and the participant characteristics may be known to the researcher. And in quantitative, researcher and their biases are not known. Kasi nga, this is very exact. No? You cannot be biased because the instruments that you're going to be using. Unlike in qualitative, minsan hindi naman minsan makikita mo na very biased, no? Leading towards the actual view of the researcher. Okay? The results in qualitative, particular specialized findings that is less generalizable. While in quantitative, generalizable findings can be applied to other populations. So in the final report, okay, ito yung sa chapter 5, no? Qualitative, the narrative report with contextual description and direct quotations from research participants. So when you answer later on the research questions, okay, ano yung mga sinabi ng mga participants mo na pare-pareho, okay? And you will have to be able to look for a direct quotation, okay, coming from your participants na yun yung actual na sagot doon sa research question mo. Plus the fact you have to add what do you call this one? You have to how should I say this one? You have to justify, let's say, the quotation that you got from your participants with a reference. Parang sasabihin mo dun sa reader mo na itong sinabi ng participant mo totoo based on a reference. Anyways, you will be doing that later on. So in quantitative, statistical report with correlations, comparisons of means and statistical significance of findings will have to be seen later on in the chapter 5 for the final report. So what is to be observed? Qualitative, again, the qualities, behavior, or complexities. In quantitative, you have scales and the trends. Okay, so what are the type of questions being asked in qualitative? Why and how? So in the research questions later on, so there's a statement of the problem. You will have research questions. For qualitative, ang makikita lang doon dapat why and how. Okay, I hope that's clear, class. In quantitative, how many? Okay, what? Now, how are the questions are put? Qualitative documents, review, participants review, interview, focus group, and workshops. Quantitative application forms. Yeah, I think that was discussed previously already. Okay. Okay, so we talk about analysis naman. For qualitative, you explore, explain, understand the narrative, particularly in the inductive reasoning, from specific to general. And conclusions can be drawn from the evidence no matter how incomplete. Okay? So ano yung mga sinabi ng mga ano yung mga sinabi ng participants mo na pare-pareho, very unique, that will enable you to answer your research questions. But for quantitative, okay, mainly deductive reasoning. Okay, for general to specific, everything is known before conclusions can be drawn. Okay. So these are the characteristics again. I think okay na yan, no? So a very good example, let's say an oil painting, qualitative data, describe it. Kita nyo naman. I think this is very easy to understand. Quantitative data, picture is 10 inches by 14 inches. It weighs around 8.5 pounds. Yeah. Okay. I think na pag-usapan na natin to. Okay. Okay. So this table would actually show you 1, 2, 3, the 4, actually 5 pa, the narrative, but we're not going to focus on the narrative research in a qualitative research. For example, in a phenomenology research, the focus is understanding the essence of experiences about a phenomena, the lived experience of students during a rainy day. Okay? So, yun yung focus niya. And the data collection, long interviews with up to 10 people. Tama naman si Creswell when he said that you can actually have 6 to 10 you can actually have 6 to 10 participants for a qualitative research. And the data analysis, when you use phenomenology, the statements, the meanings, the themes. Kaya yung themes, yun yung Ano-ano yung pare-parehong sinabi nila, okay? Kinategorize mo yon, tapos ano yung category na yon, and you create themes to answer your research questions. And description of the essence of the experience. Now, in grounded theory, ang sabi ko sa inyo, this is one of the most difficult. Okay? Developing a theory grounded from data in the field. There is no review of related literature normally at the beginning of a grounded theory, kaya mahirap. You would actually get it from your participants. The interviews with, sabi na, 20 to 30, but of course, this could be less also. You do an open coding, an actual coding, selective coding, and a conditional matrix. This is how detailed it is when you do grounded theory. The theory or theoretical model, okay, in terms of the narrative form. In an ethnography, you describe and interpret a cultural or social group. Let's say exploring, let's say exploring vlogging or exploring vlogging, okay, or you exploring kunyari those who are doing YouTube or vlogging, because you're pertaining to a particular social group, no, that does vlogging. So primarily observes interviews with additional artifacts during extended time in the field. Okay, normally daw, yan, 3 to 6 months or within a year. Okay, if you do ethnography. But of course, no, there are also limitations to that. You do description analysis, interpretation, description of the culture behavior of a group or an individual. And last is a case study. The focus is you develop an in-depth analysis of a single case or a multiple case. This can be an organization, okay, of an actual practices being done by a group of people. So multiple sources include the documents, the archival records, interviews, observations, and the physical artifacts. So there are description, themes, and assertions, and there is an in-depth study of a case or cases. Okay, it can be a single case or a multiple case study. I think we have a few more minutes, no? Okay. Okay, so if you're working for a particular research design, I think we have to be author specific. Importante ito sa qualitative research, whether you're doing a case study, phenomenology, ethnography, or a grounded theory. So let's just focus on the qualitative research that matters to us. So when you do an ethnography, please be able to be specific in the author. Yung author na gagamitin nyo, it could either be Spradley, Sunstein, and Cressy Strater, or Walcott for ethnographic research. Pero the most commonly used author is Spradley. Tandaan niyo yan, Spradley. For grounded theory naman, Burks and Mills, Charmas, Glaser, and Strauss and Corbin. The most commonly used authors in grounded theory would be Glaser, Strauss, and Corbin. Okay? And then we have the phenomenological. The most commonly used are the following: si Colizzi, Georgi, Holsten and Garbrium, Mostakas, Smith, Flowers and Larkin, and Van Manen. Normally, ang ginagamit sa phenomenological research is Colizzi, Georgi, and Van Manen. Okay, tandaan niya. So that later on, when I get to ask you, please explain the research design of your study. So, syempre, explain mo doon kung case study ka ba, phenomenology, ethnography, or grounded theory. And later on, you will have to quote, okay, what the author says about your research design. And then we have a case study. We have Stake in 1995. Also, nakalimutan ko ilagay dito, you can actually put here Yin, Y-I-N, Yin. Okay, Robert Yin. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's it for our research class. Na medyo mahaba na yun. Let me just wait. Okay, so I guess that's it for our class. Please, I hope yeah, I will be uploading it. I will just have to fix your bright space, no? But I will have to upload this one, siguro yung the recorded one. I will have to put this in the Facebook, no, the YouTube muna of St. Patrick's School. But I will upload our recording in the bright space. Okay? So please work on muna, work on the topics, the 5 topics of your research, and then later on, hopefully we get to meet face to face already para I can check individually your topics so I can approve your titles already. Okay? I think that's it for our class for this morning. Please attend your other classes as well. Okay? Thank you very much, everyone. God bless.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Thank you po.
Sir, thank you, sir.